Welcome back for another video session. Today we are going to look at another accounting standard, LKAS number 12. The standard is titled Income Taxes. This accounting standard guides us on accounting treatment on income taxes. Now, when it comes to income taxes, as all of us know, we learned income tax computations separately in a different subject module. You have a taxation module in the CA curriculum where you learn how to compute income tax liability for an entity. So there you learn about tax adjustments. For example, you are not supposed to pay taxes on the profit that you show on your accounts, which is called accounting profit. Taxes are computed on taxable profit. So where we see the difference between accounting profit and taxable profit. Accounting profit need to be adjusted in certain manner to arrive at taxable profit. For example, very common adjustments that that comes to our mind is that now say certain expenses income tax department does not allow, like entertainment expense, certain charities, certain donations that you give may not be approved by the Inland Revenue Department for tax purpose. They may say that no, these expenses we don't allow for you to deduct when it comes to the when you come to compute taxable profit. So they add back and find out what is the profit for which that entity should pay taxes. So income tax computation is done as a separate exercise. Then thereby you arrive at income tax, the income tax liability. Then you submit your return of income to the Inland Revenue Department on a particular date and pay over taxes and go on. That is the procedure that every entity, every company follows in any country for that matter. So we are now going to look at this particular accounting standard. Now first of all, we have to understand why we need to have an accounting standard for income taxes. One thing, first of all, you must understand this is not a rule book to say that what expenses are allowed and what expenses are not allowed and how to compute income taxes. Nothing of that sort. Because you have a separate legislation for that. The Inland Revenue Act is there to tell us how to compute income tax liability and what expenses be deducted and what cannot be deducted and what income is exempted, and all tax laws and rules, computation related adjustments and rules, and everything is included in separate legislation, which is income tax law. Inland Revenue Act and amendments that they bring thereafter. So this is not a guidebook which tells us how to compute income taxes. We are only going to look at like recognition, measurement and disclosures of, there are two forms of taxes that we now discuss here. For accounting purpose, we divide them as current tax and deferred tax. Both are on income taxes. And also, mind you, this is not a standard which talks about the implications that are arising from various other forms of taxes that business entities pay. For example, turnover tax or value-added tax, customs duty, and various other levies, or maybe taxes of, Inland Revenue introduces taxes time to time with different names and things like that. Some of those taxes we were paying 1 or 2 years ago now are not there anymore. Some may come in the future. So we are not going to talk about implications arising from all kinds of taxes here. This is only about to address the income tax. The tax that an entity has to pay based on the income that they earn, the profit that they earn, which is called income tax. So when it comes to income taxes, it has two forms, I said, because there's something called current tax. That is the tax applicable for the current period. That is one element of this standard. This standard talks about how to recognize current taxes and how to measure the current tax liabilities or tax assets, and how to disclose such items in your financial statements. So it's all about recognition, measurement and disclosure of current tax. This has two things. Current tax. Then the other side of it is deferred tax. The bulk of the content of this standard is revolving around deferred taxes. That is a bit more detailed and complicated. So we'll spend more time on these three things called recognition, measurement and disclosure. So we are talking about recognition, R, measurement and disclosure. R, M, D of these two items, deferred tax and current tax. Firstly, we look at current tax, which is, as I said, is a simple item compared to deferred taxes, which we will learn more in detail. When you come to current taxes, now current tax is the tax liability, any entity, every year when they engage in business activities, they make profit. On the profit, they have to pay a tax to the state, to the government, which they name it as income taxes. Like every individual pay income taxes on this income. And every individual pay a tax on the income that he or she earns. Entities also are supposed to pay taxes at certain tax rates on the income that they produce every year. So the year is considered as the financial year. Financial year begins 1st of April for most of the companies and ends on 31st March. So that 12-month period, you take it as the financial year, and they assess income tax liability based on the income that entities earn for their financial year. And for income tax purposes, they call it year of assessment. Now, for example, from 1st of April to 2019 to 31st March 2020, if you take that financial year period which was just concluded, and the income tax department, for their reference, they call it year of assessment 2019-20. So then income tax computation will be done based on the income, profit company has earned during the period of 2019 to 2020, 1st of April to 31st March. And they do all kinds of adjustments, as I told you, plus and minus. Some expenses are disallowed, they add back, and some they allow, deduct. Some income they don't tax, so they take it off. And some expenditures they disallow, add back. So they do all kinds of plus minus adjustments and arrive at taxable profit, and then they compute the income tax liability for that period. So this is what is called current tax applicable for the current period, current financial year. Now when you talk about the current taxes, it has certain implications like this. One is tax for the period. For the period. Where like for 19, as I said, 2019-20, you do your tax computation and find out what is the due amount of tax liability arising on the part of the company. So let's say you have a tax charge of 25 million rupees. So that will go as a charge to the P&L, which is a provision. Actually, we make a provision. In LKS 37, we learned about provisions, where I mentioned that provision is kind of a liability, just that there could be an uncertainty over the timing or the amount to be paid. Income tax, even though we do our computation, after 31st March, you take the accounts, find out what profits you have, and then you do all the adjustments, adding back and deducting and all things you do. And then you determine what your tax liability is. And then you make an estimate on that, and then you come up with a provision, because it is not the concluded amount. Because who has to conclude this amount finally is by the Inland Revenue Department. But that takes time. As you know, by April you can't get a confirmation from the Inland Revenue Department that your tax provision or whatever the amount of tax that you have computed is the final amount. Because there's a procedure to follow. You go to the Inland Revenue Department by around September or maybe November 30th only you file income tax returns. Then they get it to their hand by that time, and they also have time bars within which that they have to conclude whether that tax liability that you have declared is a correct amount or not. And if it is not to be, if they find it as not correct, then what happens? Then they might probably write to us to say that your tax computation has some errors, these have to be corrected, and then your correct tax liability is not that but this. Then if you have a dispute on that, you get on with that, challenging procedure, appealing procedure, and all that, So it can get dragged on, surely. So we don't know what the exact tax liability amount is going to be, but we make our estimate on our own. That is why we provide for taxation without calling it as a liability as of that date. Because to say that it has a liability, it should have been a concluded amount. We discussed this matter in LKS 37 in provisioning module. which I think I did a previous video on LKS 37. You can visit and see that again. So, coming back to our point here, the tax for the current period is what is to be disclosed in the accounts, what is to be provided in the accounts for the current period. But in the meantime, the tax that you have provided so in the last year might have got concluded now. Sometimes the amount that you provided would have been the correct amount and Department of Inland Revenue must have or would have agreed. Then there is no further payments or no deductions can be expected. But sometimes if Inland Revenue Department were to have a different opinion about your tax computation, if they think that you have done certain mistakes or certain expenses you have taken as allowed but it is in fact not allowed, or some different adjustments, along with some different adjustments, the tax that you provided for the last year may have to be changed. Either the amount that you provided would have been an amount lower than what the real liability is as per Inland Revenue Department and as agreed between the Inland Revenue Department and the company. So if you come to a situation like that, then the amount that you have provided already was not sufficient, so you have to make further provision, or rather further expenditure need to be included. So as a result of that, your last year provision would have been an under provision or could have been an over provision. That adjustment also comes as the current year tax adjustment, because we don't make it as a prior year adjustment. Even the insufficient provision or excess provision that you have made relating to the last year tax liability should also appear as a part of current year tax adjustment. So for that reason I can say over or under provision of last year tax. So what will appear in the P&L is the tax charge for the current year and over or under provision relating to the last year or last year's provisions, which all come as part of the current year tax adjustment. That will appear in the P&L, but we are not going to give the breakdown of all this in the P&L itself, on the face of the P&L, but in the current year tax, just one figure, you can give a note and go to the note and detail that out, like how the tax charge is comprising of. And the impact to the balance sheet is, if you have paid taxes in excess of the due amount, then the overpayment is an asset which you can claim from Inland Revenue Department, or else, or claim in the sense you may be entitled for a refund, or else you can set off that excess payment from your future tax liabilities. So whichever way you look at, it is an asset for the company, overpayment of taxes. And if you have paid an amount less than the due amount of liability, then the difference, what is to be paid to the Inland Revenue Department, will appear as a liability, income tax payable. So it can take one of the forms. There can be an overpayment, there can be an underpayment where you have more to be paid. So depending on that, you may have an asset where like you have paid more than the due amount, or you may have a current liability where you have to pay furthermore taxes relating to the current period. And also the standard talks about another possibility where the taxes that have been paid already, but you are eligible to make claims from the taxes paid in the prior periods. If I were to make it in a simple form, now say we have paid taxes over a period where the payment has exceeded the due amount of liability. And in a situation like that, say we are coming to a closure of a business. We are going to close the business. As you close the business, now you find there are about tax losses being carried forward. Now when you make a loss and when there is a taxable loss, what our tax department allows us to take it forward to set off our future tax liabilities. That's the common practice. Now say we have carried forward tax losses over a period, say we have carried forward tax losses and we have now a substantial amount of tax losses carried forward. Now the company comes to the end of its operation. Now maybe they might decide to close the business. What are you going to do with the tax losses? Maybe not in Sri Lanka, but in some other countries, they allow you to carry back. This is called not carried forward, but carried back. You can carry it back. These tax losses, unutilized tax losses. You carry it back and find out whether you have paid any taxes in certain periods where you could have avoided such taxes by carrying these losses back into that period. Sometimes they give it for a certain period, like for example, tax losses can be carried back only for about 6 years. They say so, you carry it back for 6 years and the taxes that have been paid during that 6-year period can be claimed from the Inland Department upon the dissolution of the business. So in a situation like that, whatever that you can claim from the Inland Department as a result of the tax losses being carried back will be shown as an asset because it is to be received from the Inland Department. But if you ask me whether that kind of a practice or the law is applicable in Sri Lanka, at the moment, I would say no, nothing. There's nothing of that. But accounting standard is written to address all kinds of possibilities, all kinds of tax practices which are there around the world. So now if you look at the recognition of current tax, which is in page number 2, this is on, I am talking about income tax, case number 12, which I have issued prior to this COVID-19. I am on this case 12, income taxes. And we are on page number 2. Under current tax, it says the current tax for the current and prior period should be recognized as a liability to the extent that it has not yet been settled, and as an asset to the extent that the amounts already paid exceed the amount due. This is what I explained to you. Then the current taxes should be recognized as income or expenses and included in the net profit or loss. Included in the net profit or loss if it were to arise from the items that are appearing in the P&L. So that is fair enough because now your tax computation is entirely done out of income and expenses items that are appearing in the P&L. So the taxes relating to those income and expenses also must appear in the P&L. Now take for an example, if there were to be a tax on some capital item, I'm just saying simply, for example, which is not in practice, but anyway, for our knowledge purpose, you have to now take it like this. There's a revaluation, say. You do a revaluation and then as a result of that, asset value is going up. Now, we have no taxes to pay on revaluation surplus. Otherwise, if there were to be any taxes like that, nobody will bother to do revaluations, because why you pay taxes unnecessarily? But there's no taxes. But suppose, say for example, Inland Revenue Department introduces a tax on the revaluation surplus. Now my point is, if you do a revaluation and the surplus to come, and if any taxes were to be paid on that surplus, that tax must appear not in the P&L, because revaluation surplus is not appearing in the P&L. Revaluation surplus is a separate reserve. So if you have a separate reserve, the taxes that is to be paid on that separate reserve also should go to that reserve. So you debit revaluation reserve with the corresponding tax. Since we have no practice of that kind, we are not bothered to think about it. But this is what they are saying. Any taxes that are to be paid based on an item that is appearing in the P&L should also, that tax also should appear in the P&L. So, the income tax relating to item that are appearing in the P&L, which is this ordinary income and expense items, should also be reflected in the P&L itself. That's why the income tax is getting landed in the P&L. But as I mentioned, if any taxes to be paid on the revaluation surplus, then the income tax related to the revaluation reserve should be appeared in the revaluation reserve account, not in the P&L. Simple as that. And as you measure the measurement of current taxes, you have to first of all determine the taxable income, taxable profit, based on that income tax law. You ascertain the income tax liability. And also you have to apply the rate, income tax rate, which is applicable for that period. As at the balance sheet date, you have an idea about what income tax rate should apply for that income earned for that period. If any tax rate were to be introduced in future, and if the legislation has been brought in, say for example, you are ascertaining income tax liability for the period ending 31st March. But the tax rate as at 31st March, which is applicable, is one rate, say 35%. But the law has been brought in, or it will be introduced, saying that the income tax rate that will be effective for the income earned in that period is going to be 25%. Then what you must apply is 25%, which is to come. That's why they say the current tax assets and liability should be measured at the amount expected to be paid to taxation authorities using the rates and laws that have been enacted or substantively enacted by the balance sheet date. As at the balance sheet date, what has been enacted or substantively enacted by the balance sheet date. So what is likely to come is what is to be considered. As I said, like as at the balance sheet date, if a new law has been introduced to say that the rate of taxation is going to be changed for this period, that is what you should consider. Then about the current taxes, the disclosures is something very straightforward that you can read and understand. Current tax assets and tax liabilities should be offset on the balance sheet only if it is permitted, if you are going to pay taxes on a net basis. Because on certain items you may have tax claim, you have paid more, say some withholding taxes have been paid, which is to be deducted from your tax payables. So then withholding tax, what has been paid, can be set off against the income tax liability, income tax payable. So receivables and payables can be set off if you are permitted to settle on a net basis, not otherwise. Inland Revenue might say, okay, if you have paid taxes more than the due amount in the previous periods, we will give you a refund and we'll deal with it later. But you still pay the current period tax liability. Then what should be done is the tax liability should be shown separately, and then the tax claim refunds that are to come from the Inland Revenue Department should be shown as current assets separately. Additional disclosures: current tax assets, current tax liabilities, then tax expenses that is going to the P&L, but you can knock off these words, profit or loss from ordinary activities. Just knock off from ordinary activities. Now we are not bothered to show ordinary and extraordinary. Similarly, the 4, 5, 6th item, tax relating to extraordinary item, that part can be completely scrapped off. Now we don't make any distinction between ordinary and extraordinary activities in our profit or loss. Therefore, needless to say that tax coming from ordinary and extraordinary activities, but taxes coming out of the items appearing in the profit or loss should be shown as one figure. Then some other things like changes in tax rates, tax relating to discontinuing operations, tax consequences relating to post-balance sheet dividend announcements, all that can be disclosed. And also there's a famous note that you must be preparing in audit firms for companies when you do tax computation. They show they show a reconciliation statement, taxes applicable to the accounting profit, and finally the tax that is provided based on the taxable profit. And that reconciliation statement, for all kinds of adjustments, the tax implications of it are shown as a separate reconciliation statement. That is also as part of a disclosure requirement given by L case number 12. So that is all about the current taxes, which is not too complicated. It's just about your normal taxes that you pay for the Inland Revenue Department for a given financial year. Then we'll come to talk about deferred tax. Now, the deferred tax is actually arising from current tax as a result of the adjustments that you make to the current tax. I'll make more I'll give a detailed explanation on deferred tax now. Now you have, say, accounting profit. From there you arrive taxable profit. You do pluses and minuses of various items. These are adjustments. That makes a difference. That makes difference between accounting profit and taxable profit. This difference some differences are called permanent difference. That is to say that now you do an adjustment, now add back, for example, entertainment expenses, entertainment charge. It is appearing in the P&L. Now Inland Revenue says, no, you can't allow entertainment expenses. It's not a deductible expense. You have to add back. And when you add back, then your taxable profit will go up more than the accounting profit. The taxable profit will go up and you have to pay more taxes because certain expenses, entertainment expenses, have been not disallowed, not allowed. So you add back and then pay more taxes. But just so when you do that adjustment this year, you are not going to have any relief on that later. You pay just more taxes. You just pay more taxes, and just because you have added the entertainment expenses this year, you are not going to get any relief on that item in the next year also. You are not going to. Similarly, for example, charity and donations that you give. Inland Revenue says, no, these donations are not allowed. We are not allowing that as an expense. You add back personal expenses and directors' personal expenses and all that. They say that, no, these are not business expenses. We can't allow this for tax computation. You have to pay taxes. We are not allowing these expenses to be deducted. Then that is just one-off thing. Not only the adding back part of it. Now even income. Certain income, even they are in the P&L as an income, but Inland Revenue may say this is an exempted income. Say something coming out from agriculture business or something, say they have given that as a deduction or as an exempted income, then you take that income out and do your tax computation. So you pay less amount of tax. But the relief that was given by taking that income, because it is an exempted income, is once and for all adjustment. Once and for all adjustment. So that makes the difference between accounting profit and taxable profit permanently. It's a permanent difference. But as opposed to that, what you can see from the other side is temporary difference. Now temporary differences are of the items like, the adjustment that is coming this in the tax computation has its counter effect in the subsequent periods. For example, if you take a depreciation adjustment that you usually do in your tax computation. As you know, Department of Inland Revenue is not accepting the accounting depreciation that you have made in the accounts. You have provided in the accounts. Say for example, machinery, you have decided to depreciate it at 10% per annum. You think that it will have useful life of 10 years and you depreciate over 10 years. Or 10% per annum, say, straight line. But Inland Revenue may say, no, we give 25% of the cost as a deduction in a given year. So capital allowance, this is called capital allowance, depreciation allowance provided by the Inland Revenue Department, by the tax authority. So you take the asset value and scrap that off for the tax purpose over a 4-year period at 25%, say for example. So department is giving 25% allowance, but accountants, we provide depreciation at 10% per annum. So we will depreciate over 10 years, but Inland Revenue Department give that allowance over 4-year period. So now exactly what will happen? You have a difference in this year because the accounting depreciation 10% is added back. Take for example, you have a machinery for 1 million. So depreciation is how much? 10% on 1 million, which is 100,000. This is what is appearing in the P&L. But capital allowance, 25% on 1 million, 250. So what Inland Revenue does is, first of all, they cancel out your accounting depreciation. They add back. They say, no, we are not allowing this 100. But they deduct 250. So as they do it, what happens is, here your net impact is 150, the profit will go down for tax purpose. So you have a benefit. You are paying lesser amount of tax as a result of capital allowance being higher than the depreciation. So this is a favorable situation for a company because your tax liability will get reduced as a result of this adjustment alone. But just imagine what will happen. Second year also, this is year 1, and year 2, also same thing happens. You have a relief. Year 3, you have a release. Same way. Year 4 also, your capital allowance is higher than that, so you have been able to reduce your income tax liability in the first 4 years. Taxable profit has been reduced by 150 each in all 4 years. Now what will happen in the 5th year? In the 5th year, the depreciation 100 will be added back, but no capital allowances to be granted because over 4 years time you have claimed the capital allowance in full. So 5th year what happens is only adding back is there, but no deductions. Then you are paying taxes on 100 more. This situation will continue from year 6 to 10 also. Year 6 to 10. Always 100, 100. So 100 into how many? Into 5 years. So if you take the benefit that you have reaped in the first 4 years for a 600 altogether. But from 5th year to the 10th year, 100 plus this altogether is also 600. You are paying more taxes on 600, you are getting benefit up to 600. So what I am trying to say is, end of 10-year period, all benefits that you have reaped in the first 4 years have been completely reversed. So then you pay less taxes in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, then you pay more taxes in the 5th year to the 10th year. Ultimately, the less taxes and more taxes, if you compute, they are exactly tallying. Forget about the time value adjustment. Forget about the time value adjustment. But the benefit that you have obtained in the first 4 years have eventually been reversed in the next 6 years. So this kind of an adjustment is making a difference between accounting profit and taxable profit, but those differences are not permanent differences, but they are temporary differences. That is called temporary differences. So the temporary difference is making impact on the tax liabilities, tax payments in one period and to another period but it gets completely offset finally at the end of the process, as I shown here. As I shown here, it's completely getting offset at the end of the cycle. These temporary differences are of two kinds. Taxable, I say TD, yeah? Temporary difference is TD. Taxable temporary difference and deductible temporary difference. I'll show you a simple example, something similar to this, to understand the implications of certain tax adjustments that you do in the accounts. This is the example. Asset cost is 3 million, say 300,000, say. Then depreciation 5 years, that is at 20% per annum. Allowance, capital allowance, %50 per annum over 2 years. Tax rate, let's say for simplicity purpose 30% income tax to be paid. Then accounting profit, year 1 to 5, $400,000 per annum. If you look at the P&L of year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Profit, profit before tax is 400 each. Now you need to find out what is going to be a tax, income tax. The tax is going to be, you have to do a separate tax computation. Tax computation, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your profit is 400 each. Then you have to add back the depreciation. This profit you have arrived after deducting the depreciation. Per annum depreciation 300 divided by 5 years is 60. So you add back 60 depreciation in all 5 years. and deduct the allowance that you are getting from the inland revenue, 50% per annum, that is 150. So deduct 150 capital allowance first year, deduct 150 capital allowance second year. And that's all. And then by 2 years time, you are claiming the 300 in full. Now if you take taxable profit comes to about how much? 310. 310. 460. 460. 460. Then if you apply 30% tax rate against this, your tax liability is coming to 93. Tax charge 93. And here how much? It comes to 138. 138. 138. So your taxes, first year 93, second year 93, third year it rises to 138. 138. 138. Then your profit after tax 307. 307. 262. 262. If you look at now how the shareholders will look at this. First year, they are very happy that they have made so much of profit. They are very happy. Second year, also they are very happy that their profits are so high. Third year, there's a big drop. Shareholders are very sad. Shareholders are very sad again in the fourth year too, and fifth year as well. Now, why they are so sad in the last 3 years and happy in these 2 years? What made them to feel like that? Now, if you look at the accounting profit, all 5 years, the management has done their part of the job and made equal profit. Nevertheless, their bottom line has been affected simply because the tax charge was a reduced amount in the first 2 years and a higher amount in the next 3 years. That's because the capital allowances were there in the first 2 years, which was not there in the next 3 years. So what has been added back finally 300 and what has been allowed as a deduction also 300. But this went on to the accounts, the tax computations in different periods. That is why we call it is a temporary difference that has been made. So if you know very well that we are actually 30% tax on 400 would have been 120. But instead of 120, you got only 93 to pay. So you have a 27 saving. Second, you also have a saving of 27. That made the profit up to 307 in the first 2 years. Third, fourth and fifth years, instead of 120 taxes, you have paid 138. So 18 more, 18 more, 18 more. Here you have got benefit of 27, 27. Here you are paying 18, 18, 18 more. So that made this anomaly. What you can probably do is, you can introduce an arbitrary tax, which is called deferred tax. How? Take the temporary difference, which is 60 and 150. Temporary difference, year 1 is 90. This is called taxable temporary difference. Taxable. Because you got the benefit as a result of more allowances being granted. And this is how you have to now get trained to think. Very important. Note this point very importantly. Don't get confused, even text, when you read textbooks, sometimes you get confused. They say that, look at the tax base and accounting base and this and that. I know that's the right way of writing the book. But for examination purpose, you have to have some easy way of getting into this analysis. There's easy way of doing it. If because of the temporary difference, the adjustment that you make, add back and deduct and all that happens, if you are at an advantage, what do you mean by that? As a result of this change or the adjustment that you are making, you are paying a lesser amount of tax. That means you are at an advantage. If you are at an advantage and if you are paying a lesser amount of tax as a result of that, then you have to come up with an arbitrary tax. Put a charge to the P&L because P&L is now healthy. When the P&L is healthy, if you are paying lesser amount of tax, then you are getting an advantage. So when you get the advantage, you come up with a provision in the name of deferred taxation. But when you are at a disadvantage, that means you are paying more taxes, then the provision that you have created must be released back to the P&L so that the P&L will have a gain. So with that gain, the excess tax charge that is going to the P&L will get somewhat neutralized. So according to that, now you have a temporary difference of 90. On that, 30% is 27. This is a deferred tax liability. I can open an account if you want. I'll show it here. I'll just show it here. Deferred tax liability. I provide for 27. So debit P&L. So I charge P&L by 27. Then what will happen to my profit? Profit after tax will go down to 280. What happens in the second year? Again, 60 added back, 150 deducted, you have a benefit of 90. Taxable temporary difference. At 30% of tax rate, once again you have to provide for 27. Debit P&L, credit deferred tax. Debit P&L, charge because you had an advantage, therefore no harm in charging. Then your profit comes to 280 once again. And what happens to the third year? You only add back. No deductions. So now the benefit is getting reversed. At 30%, 18. Now you have to reverse. Now deferred tax liability goes down by 18 and give credit to the P&L. Give credit to the P&L now, 18. Then this becomes 280 again. Year 4 and year 5. Year 4 and year 5 both are the same. Same as this. Only add back, so reversal at 30%. 18. So 18 fourth year and 18 fifth year. P&L, P&L. Give credit to P&L fourth year, so then the profit is 280. Give credit to the P&L fifth year, their profit is 280. Now, when you do that, you have somewhat neutralized the profitability situation, or I can say you have avoided the anomaly that took place earlier because of the tax adjustment. Now if you ask the faces of our shareholders, I can put it this way. Guess how? They are simply neutral. See their profits. 280. This is the reflection here. So, deferred tax adjustment is needed for all temporary differences. When it comes to taxable temporary difference, it creates deferred tax liability and sets off later. This is an example for that. And if it is a deductible temporary difference, you have deferred tax assets. There what happens is, the situation could have been the other way around. You pay more taxes now. Since you pay more taxes now, but you will have a possibility of reducing the taxes later. So if you are paying more taxes now, your P&L is already affected badly. Then you give credit to the P&L. As you give credit to the P&L, then the other entry, other side is deferred tax asset. You have to debit a deferred tax asset. Then when you are having the advantage later, then the deferred tax asset will be transferred to the P&L. It will come as a charge. We will attempt to concept checker number 1 and 2 with what we have discussed so far. Just have a look. Of concept checker number 1, concept checker number 1. You are required to calculate the amount to be charged as tax in the financial statements of X Limited. You are given turnover and cost of sales, and then the expenses are deducted. So net profit of 5,000 is arrived. Now you have to do the tax computation first. It says there's entertainment expenses you have to fully disallow. So tax computation. Profit before tax 5,000. Add back entertainment 600. Then the depreciation, accounting depreciation you add back. $3,600. A, they say fixed assets of X Limited consist of 3 plants purchased in 14-15, 15-16 and 17-18. So all were within 5 years. Depreciation rate is 20% per annum. So all 3 assets, 400,000, 800,000, 600,000. Actually, you have to increase those numbers by one more zeros. Say, it's not 400, it's 4 million. Make that correction. At a cost of 4 million, 8 million and 6 million. Then the depreciation comes to 3.6 million. That is what this figure is. Then how about the capital allowances? At 25%. What you bought in 14-15 would have been claimed by 15, 16, 17, 18. So this year that allowance is not there. So capital allowance you can take. Capital allowances you can calculate as not for 4 million, but 8 million is entitled and 6 million is entitled at 25%. $3.5 million. So capital allowance $3.5 million. How much taxable profit? $5.7 million. At 28%, income tax liability is coming to $1,596. How about the deferred tax? Now this is all what you have to do. The difference that is, this is a permanent difference. 600 is a permanent difference. This one. You are just adding back only. Here this will have its counter effect. Add back depreciation, give capital allowance. This is making a difference at this moment. Adding back is more than the allowance that you have received. That means it is at the stage of getting reversed. A deferred tax liability is getting reversed. Therefore, you give debit to the deferred tax liability account and give credit to P&L. So 100 difference at 28%. 28. Then this is debit, deferred tax liability, credit, P&L. Because deferred tax liability is now getting reversed. So your P&L extract would be now profit before tax 5,000. Then taxation. Current tax, you have a charge of 1596. Charge. Deferred tax, you give credit to the P&L. So add 28. Net amount is 1568. Profit after tax, $3,432. Now come to concept checker number 2. What is the total charge of taxation for the year to the income statement in relation to following instances? The two different instances. A, company has a credit balance brought forward on current taxes of 40,000. Credit balance brought forward means you have shown it as tax payable of 40,000. During the year, it has paid a tax of 50,800. So that means as against what has been shown as payable, you have paid 10,800 more. As against 40,000, you have paid 50,800. So that would have been an under provision. And it has a provision for the current year tax of 128,000, and it has increased the deferred tax provision by 9,000. So the taxation note under provision of previous year tax 10,800. So that's the charge. Current year provision 128,000. That's the charge. Then deferred tax. Further provision 9,000. $147,800 total tax charge in the P&L. This is for instant A. Then come to instance B. A company had a debit balance. You have shown it as receivable of 12,000. But the company has paid 4,800. You thought that it's receivable, but you had to pay finally. So under provision is altogether 16,800. For instance B, 16,800. Current tax is 60,000. It has decreased the deferred tax provision by 6,000. So 60,000 current tax provision and 6,000 decreased credit to the P&L. Therefore, now the total comes to 70,800. Net provision, charge, net charge. Okay, now we will look at these two items, taxable temporary difference and deductible temporary difference, more in detail. First of it is taxable temporary difference. Now just to remind you again, taxable temporary difference always will give you tax benefit now and then it will get reversed later. So when you get an advantage now, your tax charge is less now. Then you have to put a charge to the P&L. As you charge to the P&L, the other entry is credit entry goes to deferred tax liability. That's how you have to, remember, because otherwise, the easiest thing is now, explanations are given in the standard book. If you look at it, they talk about tax base and accounting base of assets and liabilities. I'll show you how the things are written in the standard book with one example. Now, take that previous example, we are now familiar with it. Asset, accounting base, and tax base. Okay, the cost is the same, 3 million and 3 million. Year 1, adjustment, accounting depreciation is 20% per annum, so which is 600. But capital allowance is granted for 1,500. That's why I told you, you have more advantage in the first year. If we saw, then this is 2,400. This is 1,500. So the tax base, as the value of the assets in tax base is lesser than that of accounting base. Now this difference, you have a benefit of 900. And if a tax rate is say 30%, you have 270 deferred tax liability, which means debit P&L and credit deferred tax liability. And if you look at the difference here, it's also 900. Accounting value is more than the tax value of the asset. So that deferred tax liability should have been made at 30%, which is 270 deferred tax liability. So in most of the time their explanation is, look at the tax written down value and book written down value of the asset, and decide whether you have deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset. When the accounting value is higher than the tax value, deferred tax liability will get created on assets. So I can give you a summary in this format also. It's worth taking it down. As far as assets, accounting base is say more and this is less. This is what we looked at just now. This will create deferred tax liability. Deferred tax liability. Liabilities, less here, more here. Tax base has more liabilities. Then that again creates deferred tax liability. Then on the other side, assets less but tax more. You have a deferred tax asset. Similarly, for liabilities, more and less creates deferred tax asset. This is the summary of the whole thing. But even though this is how you are supposed to look at, but the simple way of identifying the adjustment as to whether it will lead into a deferred tax asset or a deferred tax liability, my suggestion, my approach is very simple like this. You have to always think about, because of the adjustment, are we at an advantage now and disadvantage later? If you are at an advantage now, or if you are paying lesser amount of tax, that will allow you to put another charge to the P&L. So when you charge P&L, the credit is a liability. Then it creates deferred tax liability. If you are at a disadvantage now, that means you are paying more taxes now. The P&L has got already burdened. Then you have to give credit to the P&L to negate the effect. When you give credit to the P&L, then you have to put the debit into deferred tax asset. Or it can be a reversal of deferred tax liability. Anyway, the debit entry is to be put on to the deferred tax asset or liability. So all what you have to now look at is, I repeat it, if you are at an advantage of taxation because of the tax adjustment, you have got to make a provision. You provide for P&L and give credit to deferred tax liability. If you are already at a disadvantage and paying more taxes now, then give credit to the P&L and debit deferred tax asset. This is all what we remember in all cases. Now we will look at these examples and learn little more about. In page number 5, it's about deferred tax, recognition of deferred tax liabilities. Examples of circumstances that give rise to taxable temporary differences. Taxable temporary differences will lead into deferred tax liability. Within brackets you can say DTL, deferred tax liability. We'll take one by one. I'll explain it. Interest revenue is received in arrears and is included in arriving in accounting profit on a time apportionment basis, but is included in tax on cash basis. So when you accrue an interest income, right, the income is there, but Inland Revenue is not going to tax you on accrued interest income, but they will wait until you receive it. So first you accrue, then only you receive. So this period you have accrued the interest income, the P&L is better, but you are not paying taxes for that now. Tax will be paid later. Then you are at an advantage now. So since you are at an advantage now, you got to make a deferred tax liability provision. Provide for the P&L, debit P&L and credit deferred tax liability. Similarly, revenue from the sale of good is included in the accounting profit on the sale taking place, but tax authority is going to tax you only when you receive cash. Same impact, same implication. You are at an advantage now, therefore you got to make a deferred tax liability. Then the depreciation of an asset is accelerated by the Inland Revenue Department so that you get more allowances, like the example that we looked at earlier. You are at an advantage now. You get more allowances than the depreciation that they are adding back. So you are at an advantage, so you got to make a provision along with deferred tax liability. Development costs have been deducted, have been allowed to deduct in full, even though you amortize to the P&L slice by slice. So you are at an advantage once again, since the entire development expenses have been allowed as a deductible expense by the Inland Revenue Department. So you are at an advantage, you got to make a provision along with deferred tax liability. Prepaid expenses have been allowed for deduction for tax purpose. Same implication, you are at an advantage. The last item what they are trying to say is, depreciation of an item is not deductible. Underline the word not deductible for tax purpose. And no deduction will be available for tax purpose when the asset is sold or scrapped. So, this is, the standard says, if any item has no impact, is not giving rise to any impact on accounting profit or the taxable profit. That's how they have worded it, and then in a particular place, they are addressing with an example like this. Now you take for example, a car that is being used up by a director of a company, for which the capital allowance is not granted. Then what happens is, when the capital allowance is not granted, there's no impact on there's no temporary difference here. There's a depreciation that they add back. The depreciation they add back, but the capital allowances are not granted. But as you sell the assets, they won't charge any capital gain taxes also. I think you must be knowing better about the tax adjustment relating to vehicle for which the capital allowances are not granted. Think about that example. And when you fit into this deferred tax computation, it doesn't create any implications for taxes. Therefore, standard prohibits recognition of any deferred tax asset or liability in relation to such items, where it has no impact on accounting profit or taxable profit. We will attempt concept checker number 3 now. The company purchased an item of plant for 8.4 million. On 1st April 2016, it had estimated life of 4 years and an estimated residual value of 400,000. The plant is depreciated on a straight line basis. The tax authorities do not allow depreciation as deductible expense. Instead, a capital allowance of 50% of the cost of this type of asset can be claimed against income tax in the year of purchase and 50% in the following year. Income tax rate is 30%. In respect of the above item of plant, calculate the deferred tax charge or credit in the company's income statement for the year to 31st March 2019 and the deferred tax in the balance sheet at that date. Find out how the depreciation is going to be made. Year 1. Depreciation is going to be done over 4 years, which means 8.4 million. 8.4 million is the cost. You deduct the residual value, 400, and divide over 4 years, which is giving you a charge of 2 million per annum. So 2 million, year 2, 2 million. Here 3, 2 million. Here 4, 2 million. Capital allowance. You claim on 8.4 million, not on the depreciable amount, because Inland Revenue will give allowance for the entire cost of your purchase. 4.2 million deducted, 4.2 million deducted, and nothing in the fourth year. Now if you look at carefully, the total capital allowance is not equal to the depreciation. There is a difference of 400,000. 400,000 benefit has been given more. Now I will show you how the deferred tax adjustment comes in. How much the net? 2,200 deducted at 30%. I open deferred tax liability account. In year 1, you provide 660. Debit P&L, credit deferred tax liability. Year 2 also, same. 2,200 at 30%. 660. Year 3, 2,000 add back only. So the deferred tax liability will get reversed by 600. And year 4 also, you reverse 600, but deferred tax liability account will have a balance of 120 more. That 120 you have to transfer to the P&L. That 120 will be transferred to the P&L. Again in the fourth year, that 120 will be transferred. Give credit to the P&L. You know why? Now assume that at the end of the fourth year, the company was able to sell the asset at its scrap value of 400. When you sell this asset at the scrap value of 400, you will have a disposal profit. For tax purpose, in the tax computation, there is a disposal profit of 400. Because capital allowance is being entirely granted and now that is getting sold for 400, it will get taxed at 30%. So there will be a tax charge of 120 coming to the P&L. P&L charge. As this charge comes to the P&L, this entry will negate that effect by going into the credit side of the P&L. That's it.